Doug, how can you teach somebody who's already doing so much of it well that maybe you're not even doing that well? And he said, like, you're not doing it at 99% like them. And he said, Corey, that's the key thing is I'm not going to try to help them on the 99% they're already doing maybe even better than me. I'm just trying to help them with that 1%.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm your host, Shay Wheat, founder of Grace and Ease Productions, where we support entrepreneurs just like you with event-based marketing and sales strategies, allowing you to build your authority, your credibility, and your visibility in your industry. Now, my question for you today is, have you ever wanted and just had that piece of your heart going, I would love to really be a best-selling author, or speaking on, some prestigious stages, maybe an Ivy League stage, or maybe even be featured on some major networks? Well, our guest today is Corey Poirier, a multiple-time TEDx speaker, Wall Street Journal, and USA Today best-selling author, and he was recently announced as one of just 15 Success Magazine emerging entrepreneurs. Please help me welcome Corey to the Creating Powerful Impact stage. How are you, Corey?
I am doing fantastic. And thank you so much, Shay, for welcoming me on board today.
I'm excited to have you because we both work with people that are, fantastic at what it is that they do. They're experts in their field, but maybe not everybody necessarily knows who they are yet. And that's what you specialize in supporting them with. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. It's and I get excited by that because I think it's important sometimes to know the origin story. And so the origin story for where I spend most of my time right now is of the picture of that guy like me who started X amount of years ago, 20 some years ago as a speaker, and was told that if you build it, they will come. And then I started hammering and nobody heard the hammer. And I said, if I can ever get into a situation where I can make it easier for people, and maybe not them building it will come, but I can bring some of the people to them, to use a metaphor all the way through. That's what I want to do. So part of that was I was that guy you just described. So I felt I was a good speaker, let's say. I felt I had a powerful message. I would do some talks and people are like, this is going to change my life forever. Or I'd walk past them in the hall and they say, remember you talked about your, I can't remember what name, I used to name a journal that I used to have. It was like sections, that it was like time management, but it was like 5 or 6 things. And I used to talk about that because I used to do a lot of sales training. And so it was about sales. And they'd say, I got my freedom journal. I don't remember what it was called. I got my freedom journal, Corey, as they walked past me in the like downtown in the city, like just walked past them. And I was that guy that I felt was delivering a powerful message, but not enough people knew I was doing that. And
Mhm.
so I was out there plugging away, trying to figure out how to get more paid speaking, how to get more non-paid speaking, how to get media, how to convince them to even let me on a show, that kind of thing. And so I said, if I can down the road make that easier for other people in that situation, that's what I want to do. And of course, that brings with it, we have people that we work with that are one of the people at our events accepted a presidential award. We've had multiple TEDx speakers, doctors, plastic surgeons. So we have people that maybe are very known in their field, and some are very known in the world. And you're going to bring people like that based on what we do. But I would say 80 to 90% of it is people that are just starting that journey, and
Mhm.
they're powerful at what they do, whether that's a trade or like, and you can go any extent, like chiropractor, whether they're coach, what have you. They're really good at it and people love them, but not enough people know they do it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, if I were to kind of switch gears slightly on you, I know one of your books, you have probably what a good 400 quotes in it from past thought leaders. So you've interviewed a number of different people in your career thus far. What would you say when you're speaking with them, is the thing that either is a common thread throughout, or what is that they focus on the most?
Hmm. This is interesting because there's definitely multiple answers I could give you for the common, which sounds crazy because you think common, what's the common thing they do? But I feel like it's common things. And so, some of them, um, one of them that I talk about in the new book that I put out is the power of no. So they figured out how to say no to most of the things that won't move the needle, and so they can say yes to the few things that will. But bigger than that, perhaps they figured out how to know what a no and a yes is, and they figured out how to do it without burning a bridge. So
Ooh,
that's
yeah, let's dive into that. What does that mean? What does that look like?
well, I mean, it's kind of probably why this one spoke to me so much whenever I discovered it is because I grew up in a small town, raised by a single mother and a grandfather who was like a carpenter with a grade 3 education, and he basically and it was based on his experience in life. He was a carpenter who worked for local people, built a great reputation. And so he just said yes all the time and more opportunities came to him. So he thought the best answer is always yes. So he kind of told me, just say yes to everything and then you'll figure out how to do it. And that logically sounded right. And it fit well because I wanted to please people. So it fit perfectly. I'm like, great. I don't even have to change. That's not uncomfortable. And then I started interviewing these thought leaders and I discover they're not operating the same as my grandfather was. They're saying, and a great example, right from the very starting point, I'm reaching out to a thought leader to bring them onto a show or interview them or what have you. And they're like, love to help you, buddy, but no, sorry, it's a no. So they're already saying no right from the first. And then I have to work to get past that no. But they're literally saying no from the second I reach out to them. And it was so constant. Like, I'm like, okay, I reached out to 95 people and 93 said no. So I'm like, I was told everybody just says yes. Wait a minute, where are the S's?
Mhm.
And so then the more I studied this because it fascinated me, the more I realized that I was on to something. It was really about no more than yes. So what I found is solo entrepreneurs tend to say yes a lot more, but people that either have grown the business or their brand to the point where they can't say yes to everything eventually learn to have to say no and they have to get that muscle anyway. And then CEOs of big companies and what have you, they have sometimes 20 people to say no for them to keep people out. You think about like Tony Robbins, and I would say, like, if you tried to call Tony Robbins right now and said, hey, can I speak to Tony? We all know what that's going to look like. It's
Right.
probably, unless you have an in, that's probably going to be a hard no. Well, however it's said, however delicate it is, it's going to be a hard no. And so he's built up a whole infrastructure to make sure Tony never sees it unless they truly believe this is in alignment with what Tony wants to do. So I've noticed that either they say no themselves and work that muscle or they hire somebody else to do it. And yet I was taught to say yes. So what that meant is I had a decision to make. Either I stick with the yeses and go down that path, which is what I, wanted to do because it was so easy and comfortable, or I look and say, I want to impact more lives. And the people that I'm studying who are impacting more lives are saying no. So I may need to start practicing my no muscle and working my no muscle. And so
Mhm.
that's what I decided to do. And so why, in terms of how that's significant, is that if 95% of the people that you're wanting to become are doing something, you might want to consider doing the same thing. And so for me, what they were doing on masse was saying no.
Mhm.
And so the first part is had to figure that out. I had to come to grips with that. And then as far as working the no muscle for me, I started baby steps. What I did was I would start with people that I normally wouldn't talk to anyway. When I say that, just to clarify, I mean, somebody reaches out, they found my name by an internet scour, and they saw a post somewhere I said, like 4 years ago, I was looking for somebody to help me with Facebook ads. And now they're reaching out saying, hey, Corey, I see you want somebody to help you with Facebook ads. Well, before I would just ignore that because I'm like, sometimes I still reply because I'm still a yes person. So I would still reply sometimes, but normally I would ignore it because I'm like, if I say anything, then they're gonna see that as an opening. Now I can go for a close. And so, like, even if you say I'm not interested, well, tell me more about that. And I'm like, wait a minute, why did I even bother answering this? But I realized that those should be my no's because I didn't know the person. There was no sweat in the game. Honestly, they were expecting to get a lot of no's to get to a yes. So I wasn't hurting their feelings probably very much anyway. I was in sales for years. I knew that I got no all the time. So I was like, maybe I'll start with the things where it's not going to be a friend, a family member, a boss that can fire me. And so I started with baby no's and I started saying no and getting better and better at those no's, which
Mhm.
eventually got me brave enough to say no to a little bit of a bigger thing. And the final piece of this was, well, I guess how I started saying no's without burning bridge, I learned from Chalene Johnson, who is a big influencer on Instagram and what have you. And in an interview, she used to run Turbo Jam, which was
Mhm.
like P90X for those that might not know Turbo Jam. But I was talking to her and she was talking about how busy she was, 600 classes at the time, all across North America. And the local ones would ask her to fill in for them at times. Like, Shalene, can you fill in? I got to go do this. And so she was constantly being brought to the different classes to fill in. And she realized she had to change that. So she decided to start telling them that the truth, which was that we're very family oriented. And I got to talk to my husband, Brett, and make sure we don't have something else planned for the same time. Is it okay if I get back to you in a couple of days? And if I can't help you, I'll find somebody who will. And what she found is people didn't get mad at her because how she positioned that. But then by the time she got back to them, like, you know what? I don't need it anymore. I got to figure it out already.
Yeah.
So it served two things. It didn't burn a bridge, but then 99% of the time they figured out the problem themselves. The final piece of what I said, because I know I dropped a lot at once, Shay, is how do you know what a yes and no is in the first place? So, I talked about come to grips with the fact that I had to start saying no more, then how to do it without burning a bridge. The third piece is how do you know what a yes and no is? And this ties into something else I talked about in the new book, which is about developing your own personal mission statement, which I also sometimes call a purpose statement. But basically, I was sitting in an office one day, realized looking at this mission statement that all companies have one. Maybe personally, we should have one as well. And so I created my own mission statement, which was to be the guy. My mission statement is to be the guy that motivates, donates, educates, entertains, and inspires. And so I have that in writing in my wallet. And anything I take on, so this goes back to how I know what a no and a yes is. Anything I think of taking on, I put it against those 5 things. How many of those is it? If it's 0, it's an easy no without regret. If it's 4, it's usually an easy yes without regret. And if it's in between there, then it's like, I'll think about this for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But having a mission statement that tells me what I'm meant to do and what my mission is allows me to decide when somebody asks me something, is this in alignment with my mission? And if it's not, it allows me to say no without worrying about it. So
Yeah,
that's the whole power of no in a summary.
I love that. And it also helps just free up a lot of the brain space to make those decisions a little bit faster, right? So you hear of the big CEOs that wear, black turtlenecks every single day because they don't want to make the decision of what it is they're wearing, or they eat the same thing every single day because they don't want to use that decision-making power on those pieces versus the things that are going to move the business forward or their life forward, right? Their relationships forward. In a sense, that personal mission statement allows you to make the yes, no decisions faster and easier.
100%. Yeah, for me now, it's on autopilot. So for a while, I would go, okay, they're asking me to do this. And I would literally write down, okay, is it going to help me donate and give back? Is it going to help me inspire? And then now, I don't even look at it, to be honest. It's like ingrained in me. This is a yes for sure. This is a no. The only part where, and it makes sense that I still struggle with it because I was a yes person. I think it's like you can take the person out of the whatever place, but you can't take the thing out of the person.
Yeah.
So I still want to say yes at times. And sometimes I even say yes just so I can get that out of my system to say yes if it's the right situation. But the hardest one always still for me is a client who I've known for years that's become a friend and they ask me for something. Sometimes it's a yes anyway, so it's easy. But sometimes it's really hard to say no to that person.
Yeah.
And I still do it when I have to. But I would say I probably say yes to that person a little more than other people because I want to say yes desperately. And so sometimes I can make it work so that it becomes a yes. So I'll give you an example is somebody asked me to do a video that's kind of like a 2-minute testimonial. And I think the world of the person and I think they do good work. Like I believe in them and I believe in doing the video testimonial, but I'm just literally max right now. So, I told them I'm going to do it for sure, but I need some grace on the when. But I am going to do it for sure. And it's on my list. It's actually the first right now on my to-do list. And I am going to do it. So that was kind of like a no to the second doing it because they were kind of pushing for like right away. And it was like a no to the second, but a yes for you.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. So going back to, all of these influential thought leaders that you've connected with, talk to me about the working on your top 1%. What is that? What does it mean? And how do we actually start working on it?
So the top 1%, this concept came to me when I interviewed an elite skating coach who was doing some training with Sidney Crosby, getting him ready to come back after an injury. And I simply said, like, I don't get it. How can you teach somebody that already does 99% of it well? This guy's name is Doug. I said, Doug, how can you teach somebody who's already doing so much of it well that maybe you're not even doing that well? And he said, like, you're not doing it at 99% like them. And he said, Corey, that's the key thing is I'm not going to try to help them on the 99% they're already doing maybe even better than me. I'm just trying to help them with that 1% that in the case of hockey could mean the difference between a goal, a game, because they do that better. And so it started getting me thinking about how the influencers I was interviewing do a lot of the stuff they do very well, but there's always areas they can improve. And then noticing that a lot of them were continually working on that 1%, that small area. And when you think about like Sidney Crosby at the time, this is a guy that Sidney basically is, was at the time, like whatever, 3 goals a game or whatever he was doing, here's somebody who is already doing all these amazing things, but yet he's still trying to do more. Or like he got injured and at the time he was probably worth $30 million and he's working this hard to get back into the game. So I found that fascinating.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the premise came.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And so really for those in the audience right now, what is the best way to start working on that 1%?
Well, I mean, obviously the big thing is you have to identify it. That's the first area. You have to identify the 1% and figure out what it is. And I think a good place to start there is either asking your inner circle, like if you have a mastermind or if you have a group that you trust, asking them. If you don't have that group, then probably a secondary approach would be maybe to go to social media, ask on Facebook or something like that. Ask them what areas they feel you're weak in, what areas they feel you're strong in, and basically be open to listening to those areas. And then ask yourself which ones are the crucial ones and which ones are areas maybe I don't even want to improve in. So like for me, an example, when it comes to the area that I don't want to improve in, early on, as a speaker, I'm really high energy, of course, as you can tell. And I thought I want to get better at speaking and I want to be stronger in that area. And so I'm going to make changes based on what people are saying. Well, on the evaluation forums, 1 out of 100 would say, you're too high energy. You talk too fast. And so I was going to change that. But I went and asked people, my own clients, what do you like about me? And they say, how high energy you are, and how passionate you are. And I'm like, oh, wow, I was just going to change that trait. So that could be an area where somebody else views as my 1%, but I don't. I don't want to change that. So it's finding out what the areas other people think you can improve in, but then at the same time, deciding which ones are crucial for you to improve in and which ones you may not even want to change at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what makes you unique and sets you apart from everybody else in the marketplace, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So before we started recording this interview, we were talking about something that kind of caught me a little off guard. So why and what do you think we can all learn from the mayfly?
Yeah, that's the mayfly has become my new favorite fly or insect because I didn't really know it much more than I knew it was a fly. I didn't really know it at all. I didn't know about it or what the premise was or what its life was like. But basically, when I started researching it, and I think I shared this with you off air, I heard this on an episode Everybody Loves Raymond. The older brother Robert talked about the mayfly, and I can't remember the context, but the gist was make sure you're living your life on purpose. And basically, I started looking up the mayfly and I discovered that the female lives 3 to 5 minutes. And I've said like, that means her purpose is literally just to procreate and that's it. But the male was 24 hours. And I thought that's fascinating because most of us, if we were living 24 hours, we're not as focused as the mayfly around living on purpose. And I thought, I wonder if how many people know exactly what they would do on their last day or every day if that was their most important day. And are they living that way now? So in the book, one character asked the other one, hey, if you were the mayfly and had 24 hours, how would you live? And then the second character starts explaining it. And the person that asks, once he hears all the answers, says, well, then how come you're not doing that now? And so that to me is the power of learning from the mayfly, is learning that this insect has 24 hours and it lives on purpose in those 24 hours. Assumably, we don't know we don't know their personality if they're happy that whole time, but assumably they keep doing it. So obviously something in them, instinct says I was born to do this. And so I was just think like every day I don't think if somebody said, what's my ideal day? I don't think most people would put the same thing every day over and over again. Meaning, like, I don't think you should write a list and say, I would do these 5 things and then always do those 5 things. That might be the case for you. But for other people, it might be, I'm going to make a list of the 30 things I love. And I just want to make sure I'm doing 2 of those every day. But to me, that's what the Mayfly we can learn from is to determine what we should be doing if we were living on purpose on this day and live accordingly.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, this has been a ton of fun, Corey, and you've talked about a couple of your different books. Would you happen to share about maybe the names of them? We can definitely link them in the show notes, but tell us the difference between the books that you have and how they can get them.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 3 books that I had talked to you about off air, and the first one is the one I was just talking about, which is called, I can, for anybody that, I don't know if the video will be seen, but if not, I'm holding a book up called The Enlightened Passenger. This book here is the newest book I have out. It just literally dropped last month. Like we're not even a month out now. That book has been, labor of love for me, and it's a fictional parable, a la or similar to The Alchemist or the Celestine Prophecy or the Monk Who Sold Ferrari or the Greatest Salesman in the World. And so, I would love for people to grab a copy of the book if they're so inclined. I do believe it could change a person's life. And the book itself, right now, and I mentioned this as well, I don't know how long it's going to last, but right now, as it stands, if you go to thisisthebook.com, so thisisthebook.com, you'll get 5 free bonuses when you grab a copy of the book and put in the order number. And then there's a few other bonuses you'll get as well. Replays of past interviews we've done with really big name thought leaders and a bunch of other stuff. And even if you go there and it's not up, I intend to leave a bonus or 2, and that website will still work. But that book, out of the 3 I'm going to give you guys, that's the only one where there's even a cost involved, and the cost is like $16. I think it's like $16.95 US. And so that's that book. The other 2 books I wanted to give away as a gift, they're older books. I say older, that's relative, I guess. I just updated one of them. Like I just print the copy I printed that I showed you. I literally just got in my hands yesterday. So that's how new it is. But the book's been out for a while. So one is called Get Paid to Speak. And it's for those that want to learn more about how to get paid to speak, as the title sounds. And so that's at thebookofpublicspeaking.com. And that's a free digital book. So free digital, almost like a Kindle version of the book. And then finally, for those that like audio more, I decided to give a second option. So I'd like to give the digital for those that want to read that way, print with the other book for those who want print, and then audio for those who want audio. But this one's free as well. It's a book I wrote called The Book of Why and How. And it's about finding your why and then what to do when you found it to grow and become more fulfilled and more successful. And so I'd like to give people the Book of Why, and they can find it at thebookofwhyaudio.com.
Perfect. And we will definitely have all of those links in the show notes so you can click on each individual one and just grab all 3. Might as well, right? So
Yes.
my last question for you, Corey, is what is a takeaway or a memorable note you'd like to leave our audience with today?
So for me, I guess a takeaway, I often struggle with this because there's so many places I'd like to go, but I think I'd like to leave people with this. It's a quote I've been saying a lot lately. It doesn't matter where you start, it's what you do next that matters. And why I bring that up today is I would say you probably have a powerful message you want to get out into the world. Now, I can't speak for everybody. You may already be doing a great job of getting it out to the world, and you may not need any help in that area at all. But what I would say is a lot of people do need help in that area. And it doesn't mean you have to come to me or us for that. But what I would say is the world needs to hear your message and deserves to hear your message. So however you figure that out, you need to find a way to get that out to more people. And as I talk about often, is you need to become the instant expert in the eyes of your clients. That's what we try to do for people, because being the best known and best kept secret isn't helping anybody. So get out to the world, make sure you live on purpose, but beyond that, get out into the world and let people know what you do so that more people can benefit from what you do. And I believe if you're doing good stuff, the world will be a better place.
Brilliant. I love it. Thank you, Corey, for being with us. And I want to thank our audience for joining us on another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm excited for you to take all the lessons and all the resources that you've learned here today, actually start implementing them and create even more impact in your world. Until next time, have an outstanding rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to the Creating Powerful Impact podcast. If you are a successful coach, speaker, author, or thought leader who would like to be on this program, simply visit creatingpowerfulimpact.com/guest. If you are someone who got something out of this interview, would you please do me a favor and share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on your socials. Also, if you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Creating Powerful Impact. I love seeing all of your posts and great guest selections. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show, and they really mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more about us? Head on over to our website, graceandeaseproductions.com, or follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Just look for Grace and Ease Productions on your favorite platform. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.